You've been watching tutorials for 6 months. You've saved 400 videos to your Watch Later playlist. You've bought 3 courses, read 2 books on creativity, and followed every designer and filmmaker and writer you admire. And you still haven't made anything. That's not laziness. That's a trap, and the entire internet is built to keep you in it. Here's what nobody in the just start creating space will actually tell you. Consuming feels productive. Your brain gets a hit of the same satisfaction from watching someone build a thing as it does from building one yourself. Not quite the same hit, but close enough that your nervous system accepts the substitute. You learn the vocabulary, you understand the frameworks, you could explain the process to someone else, and you've never once done the thing. This is sometimes called shadow expertise, and it's genuinely dangerous, because it feels like progress while being the exact opposite of it. The people selling you creativity content have every incentive to keep you in the consumption loop. More videos, more courses, more advanced versions of the beginner advice you already got. The model only works if you keep watching. And here's what's darkly funny about that. They will tell you sincerely to just start creating, right before rolling an ad for their $297 masterclass on how to start creating. So this video isn't about inspiration. Inspiration is cheap. It's not about motivation either, because motivation is the thing that shows up after you already started, not before. This is about the actual mechanics of how creative skill forms, why your first 10 attempts will be bad, why that's not a problem but a requirement, and what the people who actually got good did differently from the ones who just studied getting good. But before we get to that, there's one specific thing that separates creators who build momentum from the ones who stay stuck forever, and it has nothing to do with talent. We'll get there. First, you need to understand what's actually happening in your head when you try to make something and stop. The moment most people sit down to actually make something, a very specific thing happens. They compare the thing they're making, in real time, as they're making it, to the best version of that thing they've ever seen. You open a blank document, and immediately your brain pulls up the writer you most admire. You record your first video, and in the same instant you're hearing the narration of your favorite creator. You sketch something, and your mind shows you the professional illustration hanging on your wall. This is called the taste skill gap, and it's one of the most well-documented phenomena in creative development. Your taste, your ability to recognize quality, develops years ahead of your ability to produce it. Which means the better your taste, the worse the gap feels. The people with the most refined sense of what good looks like are, early on, the most likely to quit. Not because they're less talented, but because they feel the distance more acutely. They know exactly how far short they're falling. I still remember the first thing I made that I put online. Took me 11 days. Got 4 views, 3 of which were probably me checking if it had uploaded correctly. But here's the thing. Making it showed me 12 specific things I didn't know. No amount of watching would have taught me those 12 things. The gap only becomes visible from inside the work. So why does this matter? Because the taste skill gap isn't a problem to solve before you start. It's the mechanism through which skill actually builds. You don't close the gap by studying the gap. You close it by producing enough volume that your skills eventually catch up to your taste. There's actually a study design, used across domains from surgery to chess to music, where researchers track improvement over repeated attempts, and the pattern is always the same. The curve flattens when people stop, and accelerates when they produce consistently, regardless of quality. The number that shows up repeatedly in creative skill research is somewhere between 50 and 100 completed works before the plateau breaks and something clicks. Not 100 hours of watching, 100 completed things. Here's where it gets interesting, and this is the twist most people miss entirely. The thing blocking your creative output isn't that you don't know enough. You probably know too much. Every new piece of information you consume before starting is another standard your work will be judged against. By you, in real time, while you're making it. Learning more before starting doesn't lower the bar. It raises it. You are, quite literally, making it harder to begin every time you open another tutorial. The creators who actually built careers, not the ones who talked about building them, did something counterintuitive. They started with bad constraints, cheap gear, limited time, no audience, a narrow format. The constraint forced action because there was no room to optimize. The guy who shot his first 50 videos on a phone, propped against a stack of books, didn't do that because he was humble. He did it because the phone was what he had, and he ran out of reasons not to start. So imagine someone starting today, not planning to start, actually starting. They don't pick the perfect project. They pick the smallest possible version of the thing they want to make. 1 page instead of a book, a 90-second video instead of a series, 1 illustration instead of a portfolio. They ship it. It's bad. They know it's bad. They ship it anyway, because the point of the first one was never the output, it was the data. Every completed attempt generates feedback that no amount of preparation can simulate: what felt harder than expected, what surprised them, what they'd do differently. Then they do it again, not with a completely new idea, with the same idea, executed slightly better. This is how craft actually develops, not through variety in the early stages, but through repetition on a narrow focus. The photographer who shoots the same subject 200 times develops an instinct that the one who shoots 200 different subjects in 200 different genres simply doesn't. Depth before breadth, always. The other thing they do, and this is the thing I promised earlier, is they stop treating creation as an event and start treating it as a practice. An event is something you gear up for, something that requires the right moment and the right conditions. A practice is something you show up for whether the conditions are right or not. The difference sounds philosophical. The outcomes are completely different. People who treat creativity as an event spend most of their time waiting. People who treat it as a practice spend most of their time making. The final thing, and this is the one nobody wants to hear, is that you have to tolerate being seen while you're still bad. Not after you've gotten good, while you're still bad. Because the alternative is staying invisible until you're ready. And ready is a moving target that your taste will always push just slightly out of reach. The people who built real audiences, real bodies of work, real skills, they have terrible early work in their archives. They left it there. Because the terrible early work is proof that they didn't wait. Creation beats consumption. That's not a motivational poster. It's a measurable, documented fact about how skill develops. And the question isn't whether you have something worth saying yet. It's whether you're willing to find out what that thing is by making it, rather than studying it. The answer to what you should be making is almost never in another tutorial. It's in the first draft of the thing you keep not starting, and what comes after that first draft is a whole different conversation.